I know Imamov and Khamzat kind of don't want to fight each other. I'm not really excited for that fight. Not a lot of people are, but the Strickland fight, I believe I face Strickland. In the striking, he definitely beats Khamzat for sure. Khamzat, a problem to deal with when he has you on your back. We've seen that many times. With Strickland, what he does brilliantly, I took Strickland down, I think 7 times. The way he gets up to hold him down is incredibly hard. At Extreme Couture, where they train, they specialize in that cage vision and getting back to his feet. And Strickland's a lot stronger than people might think. I think he has a very good chance in that fight.
Do you think we'll need extra security for Chimaev versus Strickland? Absolutely. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I trust those two enough to put them together before the fight. Because I think they might start fighting. They seem to hate each other and despise each other. And those things are what fights are built on. Those are the things that fights are built on, is bad blood, heat, a true dislike for someone. Sean don't necessarily like anybody, which makes him as fun as anyone to watch. But Khamzat just wants to smash people. Smash. Beat them up, take them down, overwhelm them to the point that they can't do anything.
The main event is the fight that people have been waiting for a long time. Strickland looked incredible in his last performance, and, you know, how much security do you think we're going to need from Chimaev?
Quite a lot, Danny. You need to hire some extra people because Sean Strickland, as we know, the man's a maniac.
Sean Strickland throws a lot of shots at Khamzat, as does Khamzat. I would imagine Khamzat a lot more motivated going into this fight, considering the things that Sean has said about him and their history. And Dana White joked about the fact that they might need a little more security, and I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. I'm not upset that Sean is getting this shot. He does have a win over Imamov, and it was a short notice win for him, and he was moving up to 205. Did that come into play? I don't know. Ultimately, if we're being 100% honest, I think what came into play is that this is a bigger fight, and it sells more, and a hell of a lot more people.
I thought Chimaev lost that fight.
What?
He won the first round. Look at the tape. He won the first round, lost the second and third, didn't get more takedowns. Got stuffed up and got punched in the face more. So I definitely thought Usman won. That's a 170-pounder that's coming off the couch. Literally, he's not training. He's not living that life. You know. Now I know he went up to 185 and did some big things, but I don't think he beats Strickland. I don't think so.
What? That is a wild take.
I'll bet.
Yo, that's a wild take.
I'm dumping the house on Strickland on that one.
That's a wild take.
I'm gonna put
really?
like 100 bands, and I don't even think Chimaev fights him because they've trained a lot.
This is a wild take.
You'll see my I'm fucking prize picks. I put up 100 bands of my own money. I'm gonna go whap. That's how confident I am. Strickland beats him.
Dude, that would be huge for his legacy if he beats a guy like Khamzat.
Very deserving, but I guess they are taking into consideration the fact that Sean Strickland has a win over Nasty Namavov. You know, a lot of people were trashing Sean Strickland about his fighting ability before the Anthony Hernandez fight, including Nasruddin Namavov as well. He was trashing Strickland, saying this guy's complete trash, this guy's garbage. And I even put a tweet out saying, this guy beat you on a week's notice. You know, Strickland has some solid wins, and they're definitely coming into play here. Plus, the fact that these two are probably going to have one of the best pre-fight press conferences in recent UFC history is also definitely coming into play here. I would not be surprised if Paramount has a pair of scissors on the cord to Sean Strickland's microphone at this press conference, because I know for a fact he is going to go absolutely crazy at Khamzat Chimaev. He's been saying so much about him. Terrorist this, terrorist that. He's sure, the press conference may be better than the...
She just destroyed her own career with one Instagram story. And now the entire MMA world is watching two of the most dangerous fighters on the planet prepare to settle their bitter rivalry in what could be the most explosive title fight of the year. We're talking about Sean Strickland, the relentless pressure fighter who never breaks, going head-to-head with the undefeated wrestling machine Khamzat Chimaev for the middleweight championship. And let me tell you something, the pre-fight analysis from legendary fighters and analysts is absolutely wild. These aren't just casual predictions. These are breakdowns from former champions who know exactly what it takes to survive at this level. and their insights are revealing just how insane this stylistic clash is going to be.
This is what I have to say is that Strickland is, I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face to hit him. As you see when he, who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is.
But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Michael Bisping, a former middleweight champion who's been in there with killers, is breaking down this matchup in ways that'll blow your mind. He's giving Strickland massive credit for that clinical destruction of Anthony Hernandez, and it wasn't just the brutal body shot that folded Hernandez like a lawn chair. Bisping was impressed by something nobody talks about, the genuine respect Strickland showed afterward. That's not the Sean Strickland we usually see, the trash-talking maniac who says whatever pops into his head. This was different. This was a focused, mature fighter who earned his title shot through pure violence and skill. But then Bisping drops the question that's keeping everyone up at night. How the hell is anyone, and I mean anyone in this division, going to deal with Chimaev's relentless wrestling pressure? We're talking about a guy who's never lost a professional fight, who ragdolled nearly every opponent he's faced, and who even controlled significant portions of his championship fight against Dricus du Plessis. That's championship-level grappling right there.
Happen. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Khamzat Chimaev taking on for the middleweight title Sean Strickland. That is correct. Sean needs no nickname. He gets called lots of names by a lot of people because he's a controversial guy. But I'll tell you what, the way that he beat Alexander Fluffy Hernandez, the way that he put a beat down on him respectfully to Fluffy, the way that he finished him with that knee to the midsection, and then, to be honest, how he handled himself on the microphone, right?
Fluffy's the definition of a man.
He deserves this shot. Of course, he lost the belt to Dricus du Plessis. How's he going to do against Khamzat Chimaev? I don't know about that. Khamzat Chimaev is ridiculous. What is he, 15-0? He's a force of nature. Of course, went to a decision with Dricus du Plessis, controlled him throughout the entirety of the fight. Yes, he was trying to...
And get this, the personal drama between these two is absolutely off the charts. Bisping revealed something most fans don't know. These guys have actually trained together before. They know each other's games intimately. They've studied each other's weaknesses. They've probably hurt each other in sparring sessions. And now they've been trading verbal shots for months, with Strickland doing what he does best, saying absolutely anything that comes to mind without any filter whatsoever. Meanwhile, Chimaev carries this unshakable belief that he's untouchable, that nobody can stop his pressure. Bisping actually joked that the UFC might need extra security during fight week because these two genuinely hate each other. Daniel Cormier was laughing about the same thing, because anyone who follows these fighters knows the potential for real fireworks is absolutely there. But beyond all the trash talk and personal animosity, Bisping believes the entire fight comes down to one critical question that will determine who walks away as champion. Can Strickland stop Chimaev's takedowns, or will he spend the night fighting for survival on his back?
There's a backstory between Chimaev and Sean Strickland. They have trained with one another. There's a bit of shit talk. There's going to be bad blood. We know that the lead up to the fight will be goddamn insane, right? Chimaev doesn't hold back. He talks shit, but in a kind of reserved way, but like he truly believes in himself. And Sean Strickland is just going to go on the full offensive. We know that. We know that. He's going to be talking some crazy shit. Dana even joked about it on the little show that we did there. He said they're going to need extra security for that fight during the fight week, leading up to the fight, after the fight, in the fight. It's going to be a mad one because Sean Strickland doesn't hold back. And you know what? Even if you don't like the shit that he says, you have to appreciate the entertainment value that he brings to the table. And then on top of that, the performances inside the octagon. That one against Fluffy, that was a different Sean Strickland, okay? But can he stop the takedowns of Khamzat Chimaev? Because let's be honest, that...
Now listen to this part, because Jorge Masvidal just dropped some serious knowledge about why Strickland deserves this shot more than anyone else in the division. Masvidal pointed directly to something that casual fans forget. Strickland's absolutely dominant 5-round destruction of Israel Adesanya. This wasn't a close decision or a lucky punch. Sean completely controlled the champion from the opening bell to the final horn, never letting Izzy get into his rhythm, never allowing him to find his range or timing. And this was prime Adesanya we're talking about, when he was still considered nearly unbeatable at middleweight. Sure, Strickland had a rough night against Du Plessis and lost his title, but he's bounced back with impressive performances that kept him right there among the division's elite. As Masvidal put it perfectly, when you're asking who deserves the title shot most, it's hard to argue against the guy who already beat the previous long-reigning champion in dominant fashion. That's championship DNA right there, and it tells you everything about Strickland's mental toughness under the brightest lights.
Izzy had just beaten Pereira.
Yeah.
So it's not like
5-0 he beat him, right? 5 rounds.
No, Izzy knocked him out.
No, I'm saying Strickland beat him. He just beat him in every round.
5 rounds and almost stopped him, I think, in the first. So I really thought that Izzy was on top of his game. Maybe going into that fight, for whatever reason, he wasn't at his best mind. But physically, he was still in his prime. I know Izzy's had his ups and downs after that. But Sean beat a prime Izzy, man. So we can't ever forget that. And then I know he had a bad fight with the South African dude, the killer.
DDP?
Man.
Yeah.
DDP's another killer, bro. He's phenomenal, you know. And he had a bad showing there. But since then, I mean, I think Sean is 2-0 right now.
He beat Costa,
which was
just
wasn't the best fight. It wasn't the best showing. It was
but he won.
Forward,
yeah,
but he won convincingly. There's no doubt about it. But then when he did the Fluffy, which had a lot of hype behind him.
Here's the kicker, though, and this is where the technical breakdown gets really interesting. Masvidal explained that beating a fighter like Chimaev requires a very specific, well-rounded skill set that most fighters in this division simply don't possess. It's not just about having heavy hands or knockout power. You need elite wrestling defense to stuff those relentless takedowns that Chimaev shoots for all night long. You need scrambling ability to get back to your feet when you inevitably get taken down. And you need constant forward pressure, both mentally and physically, so he can't impose his suffocating game plan on you. Only fighters who can genuinely combine high-level grappling with consistent striking pressure stand any real chance of slowing down Chimaev's style. Most guys get overwhelmed by his pace and intensity within the first 2 rounds. But Strickland? He's built different. He thrives under pressure and actually gets stronger as fights go longer.
So you think a guy that beats Khamzat is a guy that has good enough wrestling, but has also, like, you know, crazy striking?
Not
right?
crazy striking, but you have to be able to wrestle back in. You have to be able to get back up to your feet when you get taken down and put the pressure on him.
Okay. Yeah, that's why, you know, I didn't expect you to say that. I didn't expect you to say Strickland will be Khamzat, but I mean,
that's my take.
I gotta like kind of listen. I mean, you're the fighter, so we'll see.
But wait, it gets even more wild when you hear what Chael Sonnen revealed about Chimaev's intimidation factor. This goes beyond just his fighting skills. This is psychological warfare. Sonnen shared some fascinating insight from Strickland's own perspective about training with Chimaev, and it's absolutely terrifying. Even in the gym environment, Chimaev is completely overwhelming to the point where training partners don't want to work with him. Here's what's crazy. While most elite fighters seek out the toughest sparring partners to sharpen their skills, Chimaev often picks the easiest guy in the room, corners him against the fence, and just dominates him completely. That's this bully-like intensity that carries over into his actual fights. Opponents know exactly what's coming, and they still can't stop it. That kind of mental dominance is devastating, because you're not just fighting his skills, you're fighting his aura, his presence, his absolute belief that he's going to break you. It's psychological torture before the physical beating even starts.
Guys tiptoe around Chimaev. Guys are scared of Chimaev. He has a presence. Sean Strickland said, man, I used to be in the gym with this guy. He's a punk. Ask the people that were there. Sean Strickland said, when I come into a gym, I go find the biggest, baddest dude, and that's who I spar with. When Chimaev comes in the gym, he finds the easiest opponent, takes him in the corner, and beats the hell out of him. He's a bully. He said, people were there. There is one scenario, this is Sean Strickland talking, one scenario where we did a live go, and Chimaev started with my back. So he starts in an ideal position, and Sean says, I let him choke me. He goes, but what's the point? He's already there. It was a ridiculous position. It was ridiculous that we started in that position. I let him have a choke. He said the rest of the time I ran him out of the room and there was people that saw it. Now, I would.
Hold up, because the technical analysis from MMA Guru reveals something most people are missing about this matchup. While he thinks Strickland definitely has the wrestling ability to make things competitive, the reality is that Chimaev keeps improving with every single fight. Now that he's got championship experience and that valuable 5-round war with Du Plessis under his belt, he's more dangerous than ever. Here's the thing about Strickland's grappling: his fundamentals are absolutely solid and he won't be an easy takedown. But he's not the type to shoot takedowns himself or impose his grappling on opponents. That could be a key factor when they're locked in there together. Strickland will likely stick to his tried-and-true strategy of staying on the back foot, using his jab to control distance, and gradually pushing forward with calculated strikes. He's been adding more variety to his arsenal too, with hooks and uppercuts becoming prominent weapons. But Guru still favors Chimaev because it's just so hard to bet against his constantly evolving style that seems to have an answer for everything.
It's hard to pick against Khamzat Chimaev right now. I do think Strickland has the wrestling game to make it a little bit more of a challenge. But man, it's hard to go against Khamzat Chimaev, and he's only going to be getting better as well. Now that he's a world champion, he's had a lot of time to recover, a lot of time to develop his game. 5 rounds with Dricus du Plessis, that's valuable experience. He'd never been 5 rounds. I don't think he'd ever had a 5-round fight booked. Maybe he had on some like weird circumstance, but I don't think he had. And if he did, he finished it in round 1. He'd never been 5 rounds before. That's a very good experience against a great fighter like Dricus du Plessis, who has wins over Sean Strickland. I do think Strickland's wrestling skill is better than Dricus du Plessis in terms of like his fundamentals. Now, du Plessis was the one taking down Sean Strickland in their fight, but Sean Strickland is just not the guy who's going to be shooting takedowns.
Now here's something that'll change how you see this fight completely. Kamaru Usman broke down why Strickland is so incredibly difficult to hit cleanly, and it's a huge part of his success. Sean's defensive fundamentals are unorthodox but brilliant. He relaxes his hands instead of keeping them tight to his face, leans away from punches at perfect angles, and makes it extremely difficult for opponents to land clean shots. Most fighters in the division swing aggressively and leave themselves open to counters, but Strickland's style forces opponents to be incredibly precise with their timing. Only perfectly placed sequences, like what Paulo Costa initially landed or what Alex Pereira eventually finished him with, can really penetrate his defense consistently. This adds another massive layer of complexity for Chimaev, who will have to find ways to break through one of the most defensively sound fighters in the division while dealing with constant pressure and volume striking.
He's going to do what he always does. On the back foot, jab, teep. If eventually the momentum swings, he's going to start bringing that forwards a little bit and start pushing you backwards while jabbing and throwing the right hand now and then and teeping the body and doing what he does. He's mixing in some other things into his game recently with the hooks and the uppercuts, and he's letting his hands go a little bit more as he did against Anthony Hernandez. I am going to lean towards Chimaev right now.
But here's where Usman identified a potential crack in Chimaev's armor that nobody talks about. While everyone sees him as this unstoppable force, Usman noted that if Chimaev's primary weapon, his wrestling and takedowns, gets neutralized by strong defensive grappling, he's forced to rely on his complete skill set across all areas. That's where questions start to emerge. Sure, he has legitimately dangerous striking and even dropped Gilbert Burns multiple times, but relying too heavily on one primary weapon can expose gaps when you're forced to adapt. Meanwhile, from the business side, Ariel Helwani explained why this fight is promotional gold. The UFC chose Strickland over other deserving contenders because this matchup generates far more mainstream attention and pay-per-view buys than any other option would have. Strickland's mic work and ability to promote fights makes him incredibly valuable beyond just his fighting skills. In the current era, the focus is on creating the biggest, most attention-grabbing fights possible, and this is genuinely one of the UFC's most marketable matchups right now.
This is what I have to say is that Strickland is, I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face, to hit him. As you see when he who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is.
So there you have it. We've got the relentless pressure and unbreakable toughness of Sean Strickland going against the terrifying grappling dominance of the undefeated Khamzat Chimaev. The experts are split, the styles create fascinating questions, and the personal animosity is absolutely real. This isn't just about who's the better fighter, it's about who can impose their game plan when everything is on the line. Will Strickland's defensive brilliance and championship experience be enough to neutralize Chimaev's wrestling? Or will the undefeated Chechen finally prove he's unstoppable at the highest level? Here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments. Who do you think wins this absolutely massive title fight? And how do you see it playing out? If this breakdown helped you understand what's really at stake, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more fight analysis, and hit the notification bell because we're covering every angle of this incredible matchup. I'll see you in the next one.